Hi there, it's Eva Pohler coming to you live in the Polar Bear Lounge really, really late. Tuesday tea has turned into a nightcap, I'm afraid. I've had a lot going on today, so this is the soonest I could come on to say hey and to talk to you about this week's topic, which is character foil analysis. Now, in order to understand what I mean by character foil analysis, you have to know what a character foil is. Character foils are when two or more characters um, occur or are contrasted in a story. Their traits, not necessarily opposites, but they're different enough that they illuminate distinct qualities in them. And just to kind of give you an example, most of us, I've used Lord of the Flies a number of times, as most of us have to read it in middle school or high school or college. And if you think about Jack and Ralph in The Lord of the Flies, Jack is more about uh, instant gratification, hunting, and having fun and eating meat, whereas Ralph is more about keeping the signal fire going so that they can be rescued. So those characters, although they foil in a number of ways, those are some significant ways in which those characters are different enough that they illuminate things about one another. Other examples, if you think about any love story in which a love triangle trope is used, the characters are always foils. So think about, for example, one of the most famous is Twilight Saga. And if you think about Edward and Jacob, you can immediately start to see opposing qualities or contrasting qualities within the two. So what do you think of when you think of Edward? Let me know in the comments below. And how do you feel about Jacob? I'd love to know that too. But when I do like a character foil analysis of those two, I think of Edward as being more careful and thoughtful about the actions that he takes in the story, whereas Jacob tends to be more impulsive and sometimes a bit reckless because he's immature. Edward is much older, and Jacob is, I think, only 16 in the first story. So this is, like I said, partly due to their age difference. But what we can do is then look at those opposing characteristics and try to see if we can come up with some thematic elements that might be central to the novel. Just to give you a couple more examples, because I know most of you here in the Polar Bear Lounge, and maybe even some of you that might be watching later on YouTube, are familiar with the Underworld Saga, my series based on Greek mythology. And in that story, Thanatos and Hypnos are character foils. There are others, because this is a very long series with lots of characters. But immediately you meet at the beginning of the story Thanatos and Hypnos, or Than and Hip, as they all are called by their friends. Whereas Thanatos is more serious and solemn and very innocent. He's never had any experience in a relationship before. He's just been devoted to his duties. Hypnos, who's the god of dreams, has not only been engaged, we learn later, to Pasithea, who is the goddess of tranquility or calm, but he's also in the dream world always, flirtatious and playing around with the psyches of girls in their dreams. So he's had a lot more experience with relationships, and whereas Thanatos is serious and somber and even tortured in some ways, Hypnos is more playful, funny, witty. So that's another example. And I also think of the love triangle that I have in my Vampires of Athens series, where we have Heno and Hector. Heno being a vampire, very, very old, ancient, although he looks like an 18-year-old, and Hector being truly an 18-year-old mortal, where Heno, he's contemplative, philosophical, sad, and he's very hesitant to fight. Whereas Hector, he's this young demigod who's very anxious to prove himself to his father Hephaestus and to the other gods. So he's ready to fight. He's much more boisterous, and there are other qualities that you can see when you foil the two. But once you identify character foils in a work, then you can do your analysis, which is where you try to see if they can hint at thematic elements in the text. So going back to Lord of the Flies, you can use the character foils of Jack and Ralph And you can see that this one of the central themes is the story is about hope, and the signal fire represents that hope for being saved. And this, you see so many other things in the story that point to this idea of original sin, being in a state of original sin and yet still having hope to be saved by the Father, which is what Ralph represents. And Jack is that person who's given up hope and who has fallen into sin, and yet even he and the boys that he recruits are still saved in the end. So, looking at the way the two represent different ideas in the story can help with that. And, you can do the same with Twilight. When you think about Jacob and Edward and their differences, you can kind of see that a central theme in this story is a coming of age theme, where Bella, in her transition from, an adolescent to an adult, is rejecting the immature Jacob and his impulsive ways and embracing the more contemplative, more thoughtful and calculated, mature decisions, including self-sacrifice, that Edward is willing to make. And you can also go further with that and see that her transition from human to vampire in the story parallels her transition from childhood to young woman or adult. So anyway, that's just to kind of give you an overview of how you can look at characters in a story and look at their contrasting traits to kind of maybe help you discover thematic elements in your story if you're wanting to take a deeper dive. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, please give my video a like, share it on your social media, comment below if you have other examples that you can think of, or if you disagree with what I've had to say. I'm happy to hear your point of view. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again hopefully soon, either in the Polar Bear Lounge or back in YouTube. Thanks. Bye.